I always want to market our firm honestly, and I want us to fulfill our promises as well, because the second that we don't is when we lose all that credibility that we've taken a long time to earn. So I share the concern with you as well.
And it's much bigger, I think, when it's a referral-based practice, because you just can't BS a lawyer. Like, you could maybe get away if you were that kind of person with BSing. A client doesn't know what you're doing, what needs to be done. They don't know what questions to ask necessarily, whereas a lawyer does. Mm-hmm. And so a lawyer knows when you're their referral counsel whether you're doing what you need to do or not, typically, especially if you communicate with them. And then lawyers talk to each other. So there's one lawyer that's disappointed with you. He or she will tell all their friends about their major disappointment, and it could cause the ripple effect of taking on work that you don't have the capacity to do can really cause long-term harm. When lawyers are having to put out fires and deal with crises all the time, they're not pushing the cases forward. And even if you only cared about the money, you didn't care about what you're doing to the mental health, the money goes down. Because as we have seen that as our caseload for lawyers hits that 20 to 25 optimal space, and maybe, sometimes like on Sonia Rodriguez's docket, it needs to be a little smaller because she's got bigger cases. Mm-hmm. Or Mallory Peacock, it's got to be a little smaller because they have bigger cases that need even more work. But that the revenue per lawyer ironically goes up. I know Tim Mackey from Vista, when I was working with Vista, and I would have long debates about this. And he's like, what you need to do is get all your support staff going so your lawyers can handle more cases each. I'm like, no, my goal is to have them handle fewer cases. And at first he thought I was insane, but then he saw the results and he goes, well, I guess that is the right thing to do for your particular firm.
We discuss our dockets every week. So every week when we have our leadership meetings, I will share with the team how many cases each attorney has on their docket, and then break it down a step further and say, this is the amount of cases if you take out the cases that are in the settlement phase, because that makes a difference, the phases of the case and how much work you're having to do on them. So that's one way that we kind of assess the docket and whether it's too much for an attorney to handle or not. So I do think it is healthy for us to have those conversations regularly, because you and I can decide if we have a big case that comes in, who could handle it and who is overwhelmed at the time. And I think that's healthy for everyone to be having those conversations.
And sometimes you're overloaded because of you, because some lawyers, spend time doing things that aren't particularly productive that they could delegate or that aren't going to add a lot of value to getting involved and putting a lot of energy into fights on things that aren't that important to the case, or overthinking things. Like, sometimes you just need to make a decision and you don't need to dwell on it for hours. It's just, there's two options. Neither one's perfect. You just got to go with your gut sometimes. And so it's some of it's just could be coaching there, but sometimes it is an acknowledgement. Yes, you have more work than one person can do. Let's find a solution for this. We can either have someone help you, we can take some cases off the docket, or you can choose to suck it up and not give you another case until you catch up. I mean, depending on how you want to handle it, and make it, but having an open and clear discussion. But we do have to have those discussions with lawyers so we start feeling when we are, kind of getting over capacity.
How do you decide how you're going to grow?
A few ways. One, we need to look at what are the pain points. I'll say we're feeling overloaded. Is this something that we could handle? Like, if you had one additional paralegal, so that work would get done, and we could avoid hiring another lawyer. Could that work? If we hired you an associate, and knowing full well that you have to train that person, would that work? Or do we need to go find an experienced lawyer that can handle a docket? Which was traditionally what I did, is try to look for experienced lawyers because you think you get this instant solution to your problems. My experience has been that what I call the hit rate, the number of lawyers that are already experienced that work out at our firm is not that high. Mm-hmm. We tend to do better because we have our own culture and our own systems. It can be difficult for someone that didn't do all these things for years to accept that they have to do them now.
Yeah.
Their monthly file reviews, as soon as you can request depots, we send out 4 letters requesting depots, then we just notice them and we don't put it off, we get it moving. And no, we don't just try to settle the case first. We want to find out whether there's any good liability problems that we can use to add value to the case on the defense side. And so, we've had better results long-term with hiring young lawyers, but then sometimes you don't have that. Like, we need someone now. Can't wait 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And so those are all things, and it just depends on the firm. If we didn't have as developed of a culture and systems, it might not matter as much, and maybe we could even gain by finding somebody that can replace that had those. We don't wait till the last minute to do things. We get things done in advance so that we can plan them out. We don't settle a case without bringing it to the group to talk about what the value is, to make sure that we're not undersettling it and make sure that we're not being irrational either on having offer demands that are way too high that don't make any sense. Just certain things that we get depots notice quickly. We get discovery out quickly. There's things you have to do to work here. And, I respect that other people have had success doing things another way. And if they want to do things another way, they're very welcome to, just not at our law firm. Mm-hmm. And they're just having to learn to have enough confidence to make that clear, those expectations just from the interview process on. And then, I've had to learn the hard way that not to let things slide, that I have to bring them up. I have to enforce them. If not, you get, toxic pockets within your firm. And we've had that happen before. The first thing you have to think about is, do you want to grow? Do you want to, because if you're going to grow, you have to run your business as a business. When I had 2 or 3 employees, I did not have to really run it like a business. We could be a lot more informal. But do you want to have the kind of law firm where you're not going to make every decision yourself? You want to have the kind of law firm where you're going to have processes and systems in place that are followed and monitored and tracked. Because if that's not you, and it's not everybody, then you might not want to grow. I know some people, they have a docket of 4 to 10 cases. They somehow get 4 to 10 decent cases, and they have 1 or 2 employees, sometimes just virtual employees, and they're perfectly happy doing it that way. I think the growth, you should grow if it is going to fulfill you, if it's what you want to do.
We realize the numbers only tell a portion of the story. We may have the exact same number of cases that we did last year, but the types of cases, the quality, and what our projected attorney's fees are going to be vastly different.
Right.
So that was helpful as well to try and determine, okay, maybe our numbers are a little bit different, but why are they different, and is the quality of case different too?
Right, because if we're getting overloaded because we have too many 1-star cases, then we know that we need to change our intake criteria. Mm-hmm. But if we're getting overloaded because we're having more, 4 and 5-star cases than we can handle, then, we need to increase our capacity to handle cases. We don't want to be in a position where we're turning those down.
Right. Well, and if you also compared a partner docket to an associate docket, you would say, man, your partners need way more cases. But in reality, those cases are going to take longer to handle and more time and attention. And so the number does not tell the full story. But I think the harder conversation is when you see something that's not working out well, having that difficult discussion and talking about it. In our leadership meetings, we talk about being open and honest with each other and not letting anything fester. And I think the hard part about bringing on an attorney is there's this fine line between not letting anything fester and bringing something up, but also realizing that it takes someone a little bit of time to figure out the way you do things and how to do them and find their footing. So you want to have those conversations, but also you need to be honest and think, okay, well, they also just started, so I have to give them a little bit of time. So trying to find the balance between what's a little bit of time and what's, okay, you should have figured this out by now, let's have a conversation. I think that is difficult.
I think the other thing with hiring experienced people, and same with paralegals, I have arguments with our other, all of our lawyers think that there's some perfect paralegal out there. They can just come in and it's going to instantly learn everything and do everything right. And they're going to be plug and play. And they don't really exist. And I think the allure of hiring someone that's experienced is you think you can just hire them, give them the docket, and they're going to run with it. And at some firms you can do that. But at our firm, because I'm so picky about how I want things done, and I'm not just being picky to be a prima donna, it's just we have a promise we make to our referral partners that if you are nice enough to bring us in on your case, we are going to do the case to this standard.
Right.
Which means I have to enforce those standards at my firm. And, that's not for everybody. And that's okay. It's just, we're not, we're 10 lawyers. There's hundreds of thousands or millions of lawyers out there. We're not your only option, but, we want to find people that want to share in our values and share in our vision of how to do things.